Andrew Luck is still listed as probable as of Monday afternoon for the Thursday night road game at Houston. I'm Peter Loshak. You're watching SBR Videos, and we are going to talk with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com about where this line might open when the announcement is made and where betting value might be. Joe Duffy, Indianapolis, of course, having problems aside from Andrew Luck's health. I'm sure there'll be a favorite here if Luck is announced that he's playing, and I've read that he's probably going to. I suspect. I mean, it was kind of a surprise that he wasn't last week, so I'm assuming that he's going to be playing here. And then Houston, all kinds of problems with Houston, right? The conflicts at quarterback, maybe most disturbingly, is that the defense isn't nearly as competent as people were assuming it was going to be. First of all, I'm assuming Andrew Luck's going to play. If he does play, where do you think the line's going to open?
The Colts should be about a 4 to 4.5 point favorite. It is interesting that most of my sources lean towards Luck playing, although Peter King, very well respected of SI.com, said it's 50-50 at best that he would play on Thursday night. But what I believe happened is based on the many things that I checked, that they essentially made a decision that 2 games in 5 days would be tough, so they'd rather save him for a road game at Houston than a home game against Jacksonville, which they should have won a little easier than they did. So I would be surprised if he doesn't play, but it is still early in the week, but I think there's a pretty good chance it'll play.
Right. All right. So assuming that Luck plays and the line's, around 4 or 4.5, Indy's having issues besides Luck, right? And then, Houston, they're definitely a flawed team, but, we know in the NFL, no team is as bad as they look at their worst. And there were some excuses. First of all, they were on the road against an awesome team in Atlanta. They also had 4 turnovers. They gifted Atlanta a touchdown. It was just kind of a disastrous game for Houston. I'm thinking that maybe if Luck plays and Indy's like a 4.5 point favorite, Houston might actually be a side with value. What would you think? What do you say to that, Joe?
That's a definite possibility. One of the things that I want to do is read the tea leaves on how Arian Foster is doing. Of course, that would be a short week for him. He just coming back from injury. The Colts have been a disappointment this year. They've had, even both of their wins were close wins. They won by a combined 5. Of course, one of them was with their backup quarterback. But, Andrew Luck, when he has played, it's not like he's been all that spectacular. You're right that the Texans are definitely a team that could bounce back from a big loss. Teams that are off of 27 points or more losses are 291, 246, and 17 against the spread. That's not fantastic, but it does verify what you said and what I certainly said, that people will overreact. When a team looks awful the week before, they do tend to bounce back. They don't make it to the NFL level without the ability to rebound from a little bit of adversity. So I would agree with you. I do want a little bit more details on the injury report before I make an official pick. But early, I would say that there's plenty of reason to think that Houston could be of some good value here.
All right, and to anyone let's just get your thoughts on the Texans in general. To anyone who's trying to figure them out going forward, I mean, first of all, what's your analysis of their defense? They have J.J. Watt, and do they have nothing else, or do you think we're going to see improvement from their defense going forward? And then second of all, offensively, how much is that quarterback controversy hurting them? And do you think that it's possibly making them undervalued?
I think that Houston's much like the Miami Dolphins, where they have a highly touted defense that seems to be underperforming. But what I always say, that the best defense is a good offense that keeps you off the field. And not shockingly, what do those two teams have in common? They both have disappointing quarterbacks who keep putting the defense back on the field. So I don't think that the problem with Houston so much is really their defense. I think that the problem is that their defense keeps having to go back on the field and rescue them. So that's really the issue. Ryan Mallett, we know he's got that very strong arm, but he appears to be, maybe the second coming of Jay Cutler or a Matt Stafford, where he's got that beautiful arm, but he doesn't have that touch. In fact, there was one, I was watching that game among other games where he threw an interception, I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was even an incompletion, where, he just had too much mustard on the ball when he tried to throw a pass just 7-8 yards away. He doesn't have all that great of a touch. So I don't think Houston's problem is with their personnel on defense. It's just that they're spending way too much time on the field.
All right, so if Indy opens as like a 4.5 point favorite and Luck is playing, would you say that you'll be more likely than not leaning towards Houston or towards a pass?
Most likely towards Houston, because we'll see, will Luck be a little bit rusty? I don't know if I'd be all that worried about that, but both of these teams certainly have question marks. I also think it could be a low-scoring game. Look, we know that Frank Gore hasn't really been as good of an addition as expected. So, the Colts offense really maybe has a couple guys who are a little bit up there in age, and their offseason acquisitions haven't worked out as well. And I still think that Houston is much better defensively than they have shown this year. And really, if they could just cut back on those reckless turnovers, that maybe their defense won't have to keep rescuing them.
Thanks for all your thoughts on this, Joe Duffy. Your website is offshoreinsiders.com. Tell us all what you do there.
We do. We're actually, as we file this, we're doing this before the Monday night football game. We're going to find out tonight. Usually we've already clinched a winning night. Let's see if we have another winning week, most likely another winning week. As we file this, don't have any plays up yet for this weekend, but keep checking offshoreinsiders.com. We're going to have baseball playoff picks, I can tell you that. All that and more at offshoreinsiders.com.
Nice, Joe. Thanks.